Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Elston Nation, and in this video I'm going to show you my first/second/first diorama. This is Bilbo in the Wine Cellar. This was a challenge, and why not put my mind to trying to do a diorama for a change, so see how this one turns out. Now, with this, because I'm an absolute pleb, and I didn't have any XPS foam in a large enough sheet, the diameter of the diorama needed to be 9 inches wide. Now, I didn't have a sheet of solid XPS foam, but I had lots of these little sheets, so for some reason I thought pushing them all together and then trying to draw a circle and then trying to glue them was obviously the best approach for this. Not gonna lie, yeah, that didn't work. Now, I tried PVA gluing, and that didn't work either. They didn't stay together at all. So then I tried super gluing the balsa wood to it, hoping that the balsa wood would glue it down. Now, I was a little bit scared about this point because I've heard super glue melts foam, but I had no other real options or ideas coming to mind, so I thought, why not? Let's give it a try. And bingo! We've got a circle. Luckily, the super glue held the foam together, and then I could just cut it out. So that's what you're seeing right now. Now, I wanted to give the edge of this a more solid look, so I raided my plastic card stores and I started getting to work of finding out what was the best one. And then I thought thin, then I thought thick, then I thought medium, because obviously I can't really make up my mind on this one. I measured it out and then decided to try and cut it with this really old ruler which had a little cutting blade on it. That did not work at all, so I used a knife instead, which was much easier. Now, tip I found out from doing this is just run the knife along the edge multiple times and then snap the plastic card. It's much easier than actually trying to cut through it. I then wanted to create the back side of the diorama, and this was going to be where all the wine racks were effectively. So I cut a larger piece, and again I found out super glue worked pretty well here, so I glued this on. There was no real measurements in mind, and there is no real measurements in this entirety of this thing, apart from that beginning bit, which obviously went really, really well. Then, after we had the backside on, I decided to try and cut out the rest of it, so I measured out what I needed to, which was the height of the actual foam, and then I did my second attempt to try and cut it with this stupid little knife thing. Didn't really work, so again, went back to using a knife. Really got to learn my lessons on this one. And bing! It snaps off. Kinda. Almost. We'll get there. Well done, Elston. You got there eventually. So then I glued this on, and this completes the side of it, so it gives a nice finish to the diorama itself. Now, I don't know why I decided to start with a finish. That seems a bit counterintuitive, but it's what I wanted to do. So in this video as well, you'll see me using Activator quite a lot, because I don't want to wait for super glue to dry. Be careful though, if you use this stuff, it glues instantly. So if you've not got it in quite the right position, you are kind of screwed. So after putting the band around, and then cutting off another little bit to finish off the edge. Well done, Elston, you used a knife first time this time round, well done. And I finished off the edging. I want to say phrasing here, but you know, yeah. So now I thought I needed some kind of supports for the actual wine racks themselves, and I raided my old GW sprue bag, and a while back, for some narcissistic reason, I went and clipped off all the bits off of a load of sprues. So I've got a load of rigid straight sprues, and I decided to cut them to length, and these were going to be my supports. Also marked out with a knife where the line should go, and I then glued in a wire into the end of it, and this was going to be my effective pin. I put the poles in place. Then using that one as a guide, I cut the others out. Nothing really special here, just clip, clip, clip. Now comes one of my most special moments, trying to glue the crossbars in. So I decided to try and cut it at an angle so it would glue quite nicely to the backdrop, which it kind of did. And then I needed to glue it to the other bit. There's no real precise science here, as I said, no measuring really at the beginning. And it kind of works. And then I decided I'll try and make the other side attach, so I clipped off the end to make it straight, so hopefully if two straight ends butt together, they should be neat-ish, kinda. I'm not a diorama builder, okay? I'm a painter. So, yeah, just deal with it. Okay, and then we glue the other side, and bingo. Now luckily once this was done, it was kind of holding the back bit in place, which makes it a little bit easier, but at the same time I needed to do the bit below it, which also was a little bit more fiddly. But same process again, and so be it. And then I tried to do a really fiddly bit and do some crossbars to go across to just give it a little bit more support. And it kind of worked. Now this gave a fair bit of strength to the actual piece because I now had a sort of frame holding it together instead of a flimsy bit of plastic card. But I know I needed to actually make it into a diorama, so for some reason I decided I wanted to paint it black first. And I couldn't airbrush it because I didn't want to get the wood covered in black paint, so I did a very remedial paint it black because I couldn't quite reach it with a brush properly. So, and we got it black eventually, and I decided to half paint the edge black and then give up. I then use Skeleton Horde. Now this is a contrast paint. Check this out. This was pretty fun actually. So what I did was put Skeleton Horde on the wood. Now, after this went down, I wet the brush and I started moving the contrast paint around a bit more. This basically stained the wood. I really didn't need to paint in any kind of wood texture because it was wood. So this just gave a really nice stain effect to the balsa wood. Now, I'm going to use my 3D printed parts to actually create the bulk of this diorama. Yeah, I say the bulk, the interesting part of this diorama. I printed off a load of barrels and a load of boxes from Liontown Miniatures, and I also printed off a Bilbo and loads of dwarf heads that were supplied to me by Richard. Also, more on Richard later. The idea was these barrels are going to have loads of dwarfs with their heads popping out and Bilbo standing around looking like, what do I do with loads of dwarfs in a barrel? So this was the fun part. So I got my Dremel and I decided to start cutting out the ends of the barrels. This took a lot longer than I wanted it to. And also as well, health and safety people, definitely wear a mask or a respirator when doing this because resin dust is pure cancer. So just don't do it. So I started hollowing out the ends of these things and this took a while. And this is when I realized it took a really long time. And I was not really overly keen on it. And then my Dremel died. So I found my really old rotary tool that I got from way back when that cost £15 from Hobbycraft. This thing is not overly special. However, it managed to do what the Dremel couldn't. So, ta-da! Win for little rotary tool. Yes, I know, it's amazing. I love that little tool. I'm going to keep on using it. Also, I bought another Dremel as well. Then clean off all the dust because we really don't want to paint resin dust. And then tidy up your desk because no one likes a resin-filled desk. Now we're going to mix green stuff. This is obviously the most entertaining task of this entire project, just kneading putty together. I'm being sarcastic, by the way, if you couldn't tell. Anyway, yeah, knead your green stuff together, use water, it makes your life easier if you're going to do this yourself. And then what we're going to do is plonk a blob of green stuff on the barrel. If it will stick. If it will stick. If it will stick. Yes, I'll make it stick. So after mushing that green stuff into the barrel head, I decided to start kind of sculpting it into what would be kind of shoulders. Now, it's very loose fitting shoulders because they're wearing robes and other kinds of clothing and stuff like that. So it didn't really need to be overly accurate, I want to say. I just need the idea of fabric being there. Also, and then I can put the head on top of it again. So after kind of smushing around for a little bit until I got something I was kind of happy with, and this took a while, so yeah, stick on some YouTube videos, and then we sandwich our heads on. Not a massive amount to it. All you want to do is just kind of push it in a little bit so that it is a bit more sunken in, because they're going to be in barrels at the end of the day. And now we have our dwarfs. I did have to check multiple times how many dwarfs there were, because I kept on forgetting. But I really wanted to airbrush some stuff, so I went and got a load of wine bottles that were 3D printed as well, and I started airbrushing them with just primer basically. And I started priming everything else, like the boxes, the barrels, everything started getting a coat. So this was the cool bit where I actually started going back into my own comfort zone where I could do painting. And then I used a zenithal prime just to highlight everything, and this allowed me to see what was going on with our young Mr. Bilbo and all the dwarfs. Also, it makes sense to do it with the wine bottles as well. Now, young Mr. Bilbo, he needed a paint job. I was going to do a leather with him, but that never ever came to be. So I started off with a red because I thought he had a red waistcoat. I was literally going off memory. I have no idea if it was right. So any Lord of the Rings people that are really accurate to the books, if I got it wrong, I got it wrong. You can let me know in the comments below. Have at me, people. Then I decided to go with green trousers. Again, I have no idea if he had green trousers, but he's having green trousers now. So again, have at me, people that are correct on the internet. He used some Gilliman flesh just to get all the flesh tones down. Then used some snakebite leather just to cover all the pouches areas. It's mainly just a satchel, really. Then we're going to use Gorgonta fur and we're going to paint our barrels. So I love the fact that this can pretty much go on and you don't need to do a massive amount. There's just instant talent going on here with this. Is exactly the result I wanted with it. I then did a bit of a dry brush just with a lighter brown to get some of those textures to pop out. Then I used Cygor brown just to do the rims and the strappings of barrels. I don't know what they're called. People in the comments, let me know what they are. Then I decided to paint my dwarfs in various different tones of greens, blacks, browns, skin colours, oranges. Basically, I just tried to vary it up a little bit so each dwarf was a little bit unique. Not all of them had the same uniform because they're like a motley crew of dwarfs, basically. So, yeah, just went a little bit random with all the colours there. Then most of them got a wash just to dull down the tones, and some highlights after that to just make everything pop just a little bit. Everyone get out your magnifying glasses for this bit. It's like painting hair strands time. It's super highlights. And now we have our dwarfs. They're all painted. I decided the lip of the edge was bugging me a bit, so I decided to go with a knife and just trim that down so it's a bit smoother as well. And then I decided to paint the rim of the base instead of weakly trying to airbrush it and giving up about quarter of the way through. Then, looks like we have the staging area for our diorama. I'm not gonna lie, I'm really chuffed with that snakebite leather over the balsa wood. The texture is just awesome and it gives off a nice realistic tone of wood because it is wood and I've just stained it, which is kind of what we do and what I was trying to replicate, so win on that part. I started off by trying to lay out the boxes in different areas and positions to try and get an idea of how I wanted this to look. The idea was to draw the focal point to the dwarfs and Bilbo without actually obscuring the view. What I realised is half of this was going to be blocked by the backside of it, so I had to be quite careful on where I placed things. But before I decided to do that, I needed to get the straw into the wine rack area, and this stumped me for a long time, so I just decided to use packing straw, because why not? Looking back on it, a tip from Colin Bressy from The Crazy Crafter, coconut fur probably would have been better. So I'm definitely going to have a look at that next time I need to do like hay on that scale. Coconut fur. For some reason I thought pouring glue all over it as well would help for some reason, because it was very flimsy and I thought that might compact it a little bit. What actually happened was it just sort of dribbled out the bottom because there was too much glue in it, and then I found out there was just hay sticking out everywhere, so I just had to trim it like a barber trimming a weird fur stack. So now that I've got my wine cellar with its wine racks, it was starting to come together. I wasn't overly happy with it, but I wasn't overly disappointed with it at the same time. This is kind of one of my first dioramas, so I'm a little bit hesitant of what I should be expecting. I then decided to paint all the beams a dark brown colour. Didn't want to draw too much attention away from the straw itself or everything else, so it just gives a nice contrast to the like hay, fur, straw stuff, you know. Then I decided to drill holes in the barrels so I could pin them. And the reason being is the front and the back barrels are going to be pinned so that they hold the other ones in place. Using a little bit of super glue and some activator, made sure I knew where the dwarf was going, drilled a little pilot hole. And then with a little bit of force, pushed it in. There's some activator to hold it in place. So now we have our first dwarf in, and then we just keep on adding more. Then this gave me a good idea of where I could place crates to not get in the way of the dwarfs themselves and where Bilbo would be standing. So I decided to glue them down, leaving a kind of entranceway into the diorama itself. So you go in between the stacks of crates and you see the dwarfs there. And to one side you'll see Bilbo, but he hasn't shown up yet because I haven't finished painting him. But for now we're going to stick wine bottles in. This, again, not my brightest move. I thought by putting super glue on and then shoving them in, that would work. It did work, but I don't know how well. And there's no chance a powerful fart will dislodge them, but we'll see. They've got to get over to America. Apparently they've gotten over there okay. I don't know if the wine bottles are in there. We'll see. While they're in there though, I decided to do a little bit of shading on them to give the illusion that there's liquid inside. And then to add a little bit more dynamic to it, I thought I'd do some knocked over bottles or some bottles standing around so that it gives the illusion that this is a wine cellar that is used. And possibly drunk people would just put wine bottles down in different areas, because why not? That's what I would do. If you finish a bottle, you just put it down, especially if you're in an area full of other wine bottles. I then decided to use some AK Interactive water gel to try and give this fallen over bottle a sense of leakiness, because everyone needs a sense of leakiness in their lives. I then decided to try and tint the water gel with some contrast paint. It kind of worked, I'm not going to complain. And then use some shyish purple to give, again, a little bit more illusion to the bottles, to give them a little bit more tone. Not to just be like a red bottle lying on the ground and make it actually look like it was a wine bottle or a transparent bottle, just by adding a little bit of shading to it as well. as well as the other ones over there. Now to finish off, the main star of the attraction, I would say is the main star is probably the dwarfs, but this little hobbit needs to go onto the diorama, so I broke out the really zoomy specs and decided to finish up painting the rest. I decided to stick him to a base to make life easier. This gave me chronic anxiety when I had to break him off because I was like, oh, I'm going to snap those feet. But luckily, he came off without falling into the nether, which he nearly did. Then glued him into place. I know I've just super glued him on. He's probably not going to stay on there. He does have to get to America, and I was told that he got dislodged. But there's no way in hell I'm pinning feet like that. And then we're pretty much done. Weirdly enough, this is my second diorama, but it's the first diorama I've finished. My first diorama I haven't finished yet, but oddly enough, my first diorama also had dwarves in it. Anyway, this is Bilbo in the Wine Cellar. If you like this video, or if you want to make something yourself, please follow on, just don't be as dumb as I was. This diorama is going over to America to be a sort of dinner table place centerpiece, which is a great honor because it's a little piece of my creation is going to be there on someone's special day. So this was a great opportunity for me, and I really hope it brings some smiles, and I hope people enjoy it as well. So congratulations to Richard and Brittany. Hope you have an amazing day. Hope it's all gone well. And this is Bilbo in the Wine Cellar. I'm Elster Nation. If you like the video, put a comment below, hit like, share, subscribe, all that jazz. And until next time, I'll try and do another diorama and not be so stupid. Till then, bye bye.